Olivia, what's up? I've been a bit tired recently. Would you mind?
Oh, of course, yeah, I'll go tell the others that we have a hunt to...
I didn't mean you specifically.
You mean that you want 4 hunters who aren't me?
More like 7 hunters?
I'm not even in your top 7!
Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, something that I've enjoyed testing and experimenting with in Monster Hunter Wilds is the support hunter system. The system that lets you bring NPCs on hunts with you instead of real players, but filling a similar role to them. They do damage, they can flinch, they can stun, they can break parts, they even make the monster have more health by being on the quest the same way that other players do. They can do pretty much anything except for landing the killing blow on a monster, because the game is hard-coded to make sure that is something an actual player has to do for like a cool climactic moment mostly. That said, back in the base game, I wanted to see how good support hunters could be with no offensive help from the player, only things like buffs and heals to make them stronger. They killed a 7-star tempered gore magala in right around 25 minutes. After Title Update 3, we had some clear adjustments, including both buffs to support hunters and some new equipment that made supporting the support hunters even more potent, and so they managed to kill Omega in right around 32 minutes. Not Savage Omega, but the regular one, and I still think that is quite impressive. At the same time, I went to check how they performed against another extremely tough monster at that moment, 9-star, 5-star tempered Seregios, and they killed him in 27 minutes. So again, support hunters have proved multiple times over they are strong enough to essentially solo quests if you provide a little bit of support, applying buffs to them and letting them do the actual damage. That said, today we have a totally different beast, a new quest that basically forces you to have a few support hunters even if you set it to be a 1-player quest, but you can choose to bring a whole extra set of support hunters too for a full hunt party size of 8, including your hunter. I am of course talking about Gogmazios, and with the way that this quest works and the fact that we have Nadia as a newly available support hunter, today I wanted to bring the support hunter squad to Gogmazios, provide them with buffs and healing, but do the minimal amount of direct damage from my hunter itself, letting the support hunters do the bulk of the job. And the whole point of this is seeing if they can kill Gogmazios and how fast, as well as seeing if they are capable of beating his super attack damage reduction checks in the final phase as well. So first up, I'm going to talk about how I've set this up, what I'm going to be using and what I'll be doing. Then we'll talk about the support hunters that we'll bring on the quest with us, and then I'll talk about how the whole thing actually went in practice. First up then, what are we doing as the player here? I will say I don't really recommend doing this yourself as a playstyle to use for like efficiency or like a build to use in any real capacity, but it is a fun, silly thing that you can do if you want to, and this is the whole premise of it. As the player, I will be doing a few specific things. I can provide buffs to the support hunters, I can heal the support hunters, I can hit the monster on rare occasion just to make sure that support hunters keep aggression on him, because after a couple of minutes without direct player damage to a monster, support hunters will go into idle mode. And specifically for Gogmazios, there is an extra rule I've added, which is that if the support hunters are able to break the Elder Breaker off of Gogmazios in the second phase without me helping, I am then allowed to plug it in and then fire it once it is charged, because the support hunters simply wouldn't do that otherwise without me, and it seems unfair to give them a nearly 68,000 damage penalty compared to if actual players were doing it. That said, for how we accomplish things here, this is the build that I'm going to be using. It is not optimized for damage. I have slots used inefficiently. The entire point of this is just using a few specific support skills and a set bonus too. Specifically, we are using the Omega Insect Glaive because of its weapon skill. When you perform Rising Spiral Slash, you apply an affinity buff to all nearby allies of 15% for 45 seconds. As a result, I will be using the lowest power level Kinsect possible, extracting these buffs and using Rising Spiral Slash to try and keep the affinity buff applied to the support hunters. I have Power Prolonger here in the weapon as well. It doesn't do much, but it does give me a larger window to do Rising Spiral Slash after collecting extracts, as sometimes it can be hard to find the time or position to do Rising Spiral Slash in a way where I am close enough to buff as many support hunters as possible, but not so close that I actually hit Gogmazios myself, because I'm trying to avoid that as much as possible. And I would say over the course of the entire hunt, the margin of error is around 5,000 or so damage to Gogmazios from me myself through the hunt. And for reference, in a 4-player hunt, which this does count as, he has somewhere around 400,000 health. So I am a very minor fraction of the damage while playing like this, like literally 1% or less. The other weapon slot that I'm using does actually matter here too. It is a hunting horn with the attack up large song, which is a massive attack buff that I can apply to all of the support hunters, and extend melody song as well, so that I can extend the attack melody a little bit easier too. For the armor pieces then, the base template is 4 pieces of Blanganga armor for the Blanganga 4-set bonus, which is Warcry. This provides a small attack bonus to allies when you use use the To Victory gesture. It is minor, but one of the few ways that we can use our armor to contribute to the goal of this test, and it's somewhere around plus 10 raw for support hunters when you have this buff active. Past that, we'll be applying all possible consumable buffs at all times, demon drugs, armor skins, might pills as much as I can use them without running out, demon powder, armor powder, stuff like that, and to make that even more effective, that's the use of our skills and our decoration slots within the setup. The main important things are the 5 ranks of wide range so that all items will affect allies nearby at full effectiveness, which is very important for this setup, obviously. Then also 3 ranks of speed eating to actually eat the items that we're eating much faster, meaning that it's easier to do, and that we can use more of them in quick succession if necessary as well. Then we've also got 3 ranks of free meal, which gives you a chance to not consume items when you eat them, which is most important for might pills because they are expensive and you can only carry 5 at a time, so having this means I can spam them out a little bit more frequently. And then 3 mushroom answer as well, mostly just to let me eat blue mushrooms for more minor consistent heals to offer as well. Then the last skill that actually matters here is actually going to be quick sheath, which is now new being able to fit in this setup, which we couldn't fit the last time we did a support hunter video, and we can have this at 3 ranks because of the Geladron chest piece actually. It is a perfect thing that we can slot in here with the extra space the Geladron chest piece unlocks by just having a lot of these support skills that we actually want on it by default, and that means that quick sheath, which simply lets us sheath our weapon faster and be able to access consumables quicker, is able to fit into the build, which is very nice to have. So to round that up a little bit, I will be playing Hunting Horn Melodies as frequently as is needed to keep them active. I will be using Rising Spiral Slash on Insect Glaive as much as possible to proc the synergy weapon skill for the affinity buff, and in between those I will be sheathing and using consumables as much as possible too, and I will also of course restock items whenever necessary to keep the whole thing rolling. Next up then, let's talk about specific support hunters. Mina, Kai, Fabius, and also Nadia are guaranteed to be a part of the quest. They are forced to be there. Whether you try to bring support hunters or not, they will always be there. But we can choose the other 3 support hunters that we're going to be bringing with us. Given that the fight has a lot of movement, and especially phase 3 with them flying all over the place, I chose to opt for ranged weapons, grabbing both Rosso, who just does generally good damage with a heavy bowgun, and then also Night Mist, who is one of the new support hunters, and he uses light bowgun, and seems to do decent elemental damage, which of course is very relevant to Gogmazios. That left 1 slot open then, and I chose Griffin over Alessa or Olivia because Hammer is less suited to Gogmazios than Greatsword is, and I figured that Griffin would probably do more damage than Alessa would as well. So the full set of support hunters that will be on this quest is Rosso, Mina, Kai, Griffin, Night Mist, Fabius, and Nadia. And the fun part of this is at least after phase 1, they all will be working as normal support hunters, which means that all of our buffs will be applying to 7 different people and not just the main support hunters. And you might be surprised at how this is going to end up going, even with the knowledge of how this has gone with previous monsters, because again, this version of Gogmazios has around 400,000 health. That said, let's talk about how it all went. Started the quest, apply all permabuffs to support hunters, hit Gogmazios a couple of times so they start actually applying damage, and then just continually buff them as we go on. Sometimes Gogmazios would trigger a lava vent with his attacks and take a good chunk of damage, and I consider that fair game as I wasn't triggering the vents myself, but I didn't touch the droppable boulders above, of course, as that would be clear interference. Phase 1 was generally the most awkward for this, as Gogmazios moves a lot and the support hunters can struggle to keep up with this movement, especially to hit actually meaningful body parts, as well as the support hunters often being spread out enough that it's hard to apply buffs to everyone, especially the hunters up on the hill in the background during phase 1. But some well-timed might pills got the job done eventually, and phase 1 generally took around 9.5 to 10 minutes, depending on how active the support hunters were during actual moments of damage opportunity. Phase 2 is where things start to get really fun and really work well for this setup too, because now we have 7 support hunters, all in a very small area, all able to get all of my buffs every time that I use them, and Gogmazios is stationary enough that it's easy to gather extracts and trigger the weapon skill to give them all affinity buffs. As a result, the first time Gogmazios got knocked down with his back exposed in phase 2, they would usually break it enough to make the Elder Breaker pop off that quickly, so the damage in this phase is very, very good. As mentioned earlier, I considered it fair game to use the Elder Breaker myself, as it is a very intentional part of the quest and the balancing around it, but I didn't use any of the other interactables in this area. After an Elder Breaker usage and some more knockdowns with might pills up, Gogmazios got pushed to the second phase. This happened right around 13.5 minutes into the quest timer on average, which is actually surprisingly good for support hunters, but the fastest run, and the one that I'm showing you here, had him end phase 2 at around 12 minutes. The phase 1 damage is low, but phase 2 goes by like a breeze with this setup. Then we hit phase 3, and this is the one that I was really worried about ahead of time. The main reason being that without my own build dealing damage here, I knew that the consistency consistency of reducing the damage from the super attack was going to be a bit of a problem. And also just the fact that a lot of this phase is Gogmazios flying around until you do enough damage to him while he's in certain animations, at which point you knock him out of flying mode, and for support hunters to knock him out of that by themselves, they would have to be in the right place at the right time. Otherwise, it just wouldn't happen, and the result of that would be failing to reach the damage check, which they did very consistently. They really did not like meeting that damage check. The first super attack could easily be dodged by climbing up to higher ground in the area, even after failing the damage check, but after that one, you're pretty much just dead if you don't do it successfully. But the stars aligned a little bit for the second one on this specific quest go. In the second part of phase 3 here, they did actually get a knockdown super early from his flight mode, which made him stay on the ground the whole time. This combined with a bunch of buffing from me got them to actually hit the DPS check for the second super attack. For the only time out of I'd say like 12 super attacks I saw doing my runs for this test, this was the one time that they actually managed to get it guardable by Fabius, and we all survived. Reapply buffs, keep everyone topped off, and send them back in while I go back to the tent and restock where it's safe. The next section here, they didn't really knock him out of the sky at any point, and so the next super attack went off at full power, and it killed everyone, me and all of the support hunters too, which was the first proper card of the quest. A part of this that should be obvious is that every few minutes I do have to go back to the tent and restock, especially for might pills, which are really important for getting these support hunters to do good damage during knockdowns, if nothing else. Free meal does a lot of good, but eventually you do have to go back. You will run out of might pills. That said, a funny incident happened where the next time that I went to restock, which was a few minutes later, I had this like hair standing on the back of my neck moment as I flew back up top and just sort of watched for a moment, and then Gogmazios instantly started doing his super attack. I didn't want to run in and sacrifice a cart for no reason, obviously, so I watched my soldiers valiantly give their lives to the cause because their carts aren't real and I have no heart. That said, them streaming back into the arena in a line was a sort of perfect opportunity to buff them all here, so that makes 4 super attacks without the quest ending, during which only one of them was successfully reduced in power, of course. And then, as everyone went back into the arena, incredibly quickly, honestly, Griffin, the great sword using support hunter, somehow managed to get a mount, the glorious hero that he is. Gog came down after the mount, I popped a might pill to boost the troops, then wandered around to a spot that I could hopefully use Rising Spiral Slash to buff as many people as possible. I clipped Gogmazios with 1 hit of Descending Slash, and then he died. 33 minutes and 2 seconds into the quest, with the support hunters doing somewhere around 99% of the damage required to kill Gogmazios. Honestly, I'm really impressed with this. Phase 1 was not great, but phase 2 was surprisingly efficient playing like this. And then phase 3 was, again, not fantastic. It was just heavily random based around support hunter positioning and if they chose to do the right attacks at the right timing. Again, they did hit phase 3 around 12 minutes into the quest, but only finished the quest after 33 minutes. So that is an extremely long third phase compared to most hunters' experiences, but they did get it done in the end with plenty of raw time to spare. The only real limiting factor would have been in the end just sort of eventually running out of carts due to super attacks with failed damage checks, but they got the kill quite a while before that would happen, as there were still 2 carts remaining at the end. That's pretty much it for today then, everyone. Just a fun sort of experiment trying to run exclusively support hunters to deal damage, only using my own hunter as a sort of buff and heal machine while watching the other hunters do the work. It almost feels like I'm playing as a battle commander or something like that. It's a totally different way to play Monster Hunter, and it can take down genuinely challenging monsters with massive health pools a lot quicker than you might think if you've never really given this a chance. I guess at the end of the day, especially for Gogmazios, it comes down to the power of buffing a whole 7 support hunters at the same time, and that really does do a lot during knockdown periods. I hope you've all enjoyed this, and I've basically given you the blueprint to do it yourself too if you'd want to. I wouldn't call it efficient by any means, but it is a very unique way to play the game if you want to. Like if you liked the video, subscribe with the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.